All right. What's up, everyone? It's Wednesday. It's time for BRAP, I guess. Hope everyone's doing well. Hold on just a sec here. I need to do something real quick. Hold on a sec here. What is going on? I'll have to fix it later. Anyhow. All right. I may be a little distracted this evening because the Caps are playing right now, and they're only up by 3-2 now. They're up 3-1, 3-0 actually, the start of the second period. So this actually sucks. But anyhow, big shout out to everyone in the live chat. What's up, everyone? Please hit that like button if you haven't done so already. I'm going to drop a link in the live chat, so please retweet the link. Here we go. Boom, there it is. And we'll be doing a giveaway today. So just going to give a free giveaway to someone in the live chat. Just going to be a random code that I'll be dropping in the live chat. So might be an Xbox digital code, could be a PlayStation digital code. One of the two will be dropped later on this evening in the live chat. So the rest of the panel should be joining us here shortly. This will be, there he is actually as we speak. This will be Eric Jackson's last official appearance as a panel member here on BRAP. So I think EJ just maybe he's having technical. There he is. He's back. Okay. All right. So E, what's up, man?
Yo, what's going on? What's going on?
Sir, let me just say something real quick, man. For those that don't know, E is actually going to be stepping down here as a regular panel member on BRAP. He's been with us since 2015. And I just want to say, E, Eric, dude, thank you so much, man, for being a part of BRAP the last 7 years, man. It seems like yesterday when I was podcasting from my laptop, and you know,
in the Al Qaeda cave.
yes, what David Jaffe referred to as the Al Qaeda cave. Yeah, no, I mean, you were like one of the first like regular listeners that we had. And then I remember you, we asked you to join us and as a guest, and then you just went from there, man. You were like the first regular panel member, and then B Money followed shortly after. And I mean, it's been a great ride, man. I think we've done some really cool things here on the show in terms of industry guests. I'll never forget when we had Greg Kasavin on, which you were part of from Supergiant Games. We had like Greg on, which is really cool.
That was a good interview.
Yeah, and I remember we had Ryan McCaffrey and David Jaffe like back-to-back weeks.
Mm-hmm.
But nah, man, thank you so much, man. You being a part of the show, it means the world to me, and going to definitely miss having you on, man, and really thank you again for everything you've done, man. And there wouldn't be a BRAP without E Jackson, as part of the show, man. So thank you again, man.
No doubt, man. I appreciate those words. It's definitely like, it's one of those things, man. It's been like 8 years, man. That's like a long time when you think about it, dude, thinking about when you cut that first promo, when you kind of broke off on your own to do your own podcast, and you did that promo. And I think, for people that feel like, you're an Xbox hater, you shot that promo with the Kinect.
I did.
Yeah. So you were using the tools given to you by Microsoft. I remember that.
Yeah, but, you're right. Absolutely. Yeah, I dude, I cut like a wrestling promo.
Yeah. For a little history for people, who don't go back that far with, the show and everything. But yeah, man, it's been a good ride. And here's the thing too, is like, I'm stepping down. Yeah, I'm not gonna be like a regular, but I'll definitely be jumping in as a guest. You know how that goes. I like to think there's an open door policy for me.
Dude, absolutely, man. Dude, anytime you want to jump on, man. Dude, just hop in the Discord, man, and just jump on, man. You don't even have to ask, man.
I gotta jump in when these bots out of control.
Boy.
I'm joking. Guys, I'm joking. Chat, I'm joking.
Don't do that, man. They people already are surprised for my distaste of Xbox, which is funny because I'm on Halo Infinite, right now playing season 2,
Mhm.
and I don't see any of these diehards on there. But
Well, it's kind
I
of
have a
wild, man.
distaste.
Because I see. Yeah, I don't know. That was hilarious when that was thrown out there. But I've seen you kind of have some back and forth with people, and they throw like blanket statements like at the show, because of how they feel. They feel like all we do is bash Xbox, and I'm like, you need to really look up what the definition of bash is, because as far as I know, we don't sit here and like, you know, shit talk the platform like some other podcasts do in the reverse, like they're an Xbox show, but they rarely talk about Xbox, you know?
Yeah.
So I always felt like we may have some harsh words, we may have some things to say, but end of the day, we can't regulate your emotions. If you're emotionally attached to something, there's nothing we can do about that. But I hardly think we're a show that bashes.
No.
And I would argue that if you look down the timeline, well, I mean, I can speak for myself. I probably post more gameplay and screenshots from Xbox than a lot of the guys that accuse us of that.
That's what's funny, man. Like that's why I bring up Halo Infinite Season 2, because for the person who has a quote unquote distaste for Xbox, I'm playing the game that many of them crowned the king, and many of them where like, the king is back, that, it's Halo. And I'm not seeing any of those individuals, and I'm not saying this to be messy. I'm just only saying this because, this show, we never, people always think when you criticize something that you're hating it. That's not what we do here.
No,
we may joke around
critical
sometimes
of things that you care about. Not to cut you off, but you should be critical of things that you really care about. There's a difference between being critical and actually just straight up hating, like just constantly giving something hate and bashing. There's a difference in that, and me personally, like the way I roll on things is if I don't care about something, I don't talk about it.
Yeah.
That's the bottom line. Like if I didn't, those years ago, I remember, we really caught heat, when Xbox was sort of at its lowest because we were wanting them to do better and kind of trying to hold the accountability. And, people used to get upset then, and now like they're doing, a lot better. It's nothing's ever perfect. And but I think as far as I can tell, we kind of give the same thing to Sony when they trip over their dick.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of it almost, it's interesting because I feel like when we're critical of Sony, no one, it's like no one's listening, right?
Right.
But as soon as we critical of Xbox, look the ponies, look at them. See, I told you. Look, it's like no.
That's the nature. That's weirdly the nature of like the gaming sphere where Twitter's concerned, and there's the link to that. Like shout out to Fame. I saw Fame tweeted today. He said he can post gameplay, previews, positive articles, things like that. That stuff rarely gets shared, rarely gets tweeted. But the minute he says something people deem to be related to console wars, whether he's he's giving somebody the business or he's hyping something, and that's the stuff that gets the attention, the drama, what people consider the drama stuff. And it kind of goes in, all around. I see that like people say, Kotaku is this, Kotaku is that, right? And it's like, you're not wrong. Kotaku does some really strange things. They do a lot of clickbait stuff, but you're facilitating them by sharing it. And I always kind of, use the analogy of, you go to the fridge, you get some milk out, you go, man, this milk's sour, this milk stinks. Just pour it down the drain. But no, people usually go, hey, come smell this. It's like, well, why do you want me to smell the sour milk? If it's sour, just pour it down the drain. But people don't usually want to share the positive things. Everybody wants to rally around the negative stuff, and that's just the weird nature of like tribalism,
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. And it seems like you've been, we've been podcasting together for almost 8 years, and we've seen this progression, right? And it's funny. Like I think when we weren't like totally co-signing Game Pass, we were all of a sudden hating Microsoft, when we were just pointing out things like that. We've always said, hey, Game Pass is a tremendous value proposition, but it's not going to be for everyone because consumers have different value things differently, and that applies to gaming.
Right.
And people are just like, well, what do you mean? Like somebody asked today in Lucas chat, like they said, oh, I don't think PlayStation Plus Premium is going to be successful unless unless they drop games day and date. I'm like, well, one, how can anyone come to that conclusion? Like, what are you basing that on, right? And we've always asked those questions, like, where are you getting this from? And when you ask the why, people get upset. It's like, well, don't you know it's obvious? It's great value. Well, it's great value to you, but how could you even ask that question? How do you even know that it's not going to be successful? So
because I mean, we just may be taking this bashing, but I said we don't know any raw numbers on what any of it does. We just know what we're kind of told, that it, there's millions of users on it, but we don't have the data to say how beneficial it is, and obviously it's not moving the needle enough for others to jump on. And that's what we've been saying since day one. If this thing hits and it really goes crazy, the market will dictate that.
Yeah,
there'll be a shift.
Absolutely.
It's too early to tell, and
absolutely
calling those things out. And that's it. Everything has a yin and a yang. That's just that's just the nature of things. And again, the nature of it is people who want to feel like they made the right choice. They want to feel like they're on the platform that matters, or whatever it is, either platform or whatever. You're only going to highlight the best parts of everything, right? And that's not realistic. Like, there's going to be like peaks and valleys to everything. Like for all the good, for all the positive, around Game Pass being of value, someone's going to lose out somewhere along the lines, because people only want to highlight, well, devs say that they make more money on it. It's like, well, some devs may make more money on it, but there are devs out there too that say that feel that it's not that beneficial for them. And in a world where you're like already jockeying for position on the storefront on any platform, if you're like an independent developer, you don't have tons of cash flow, you put your game out there, you need to get eyes on it. It's hard enough on any storefront to get that to happen. So now if you look at on the the Xbox platform, it's hard regardless. And now you have to compete with Game Pass, and God forbid you can't get into Game Pass. So you have a double thing stacked against you, because you have to go against a service where people kind of go to look for first to play games in there. And you have to also deal now with a base that's sort of like, that game looks really cool, but I'll just wait for it to come to Game Pass, and there's no guarantee that your game will ever come to Game Pass.
Yeah. Hey,
that's a reality. I'm sorry. People can take that however they want. That is real stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, real quick, I want to definitely go back to this conversation because it ties into something that's Sony related as well. But I do want to give a quick intro to our guest this evening. Got a returning guest. We got Game Logic, who brings the logic to all things gaming. What's up, Game Logic? Did we lose him? Game Logic, are you there? Hello. All right. Well,
you always get me, man, with forcing me to software mute as well as my hardware mute. I don't have to use the Discord software mute. But I appreciate it, man. I'm sorry. I was sitting over here responding to some of these. I don't want to call them ludicrous. Just some of these discussions about Game Pass and PlayStation Plus that aren't framed in the same kind of terms and way that I think about them. So. Should be a good discussion tonight.
Absolutely. Without further ado, we got my man, Mr. True Green himself, the man with the green thumb. We got Gaming Forte. What's up, Forte?
What's going on? How we doing, man? What's going on in here? Shout out to Game Logic. Shout out to EJack. Shout out to BRAP, who already replaced me. In less than 3 hours.
You replaced yourself.
No, man.
No. You went on Lucas' show. You went on Lucas' show.
You was being disrespectful.
No. You went on Lucas' show and said, I'm no longer being part of BRAP. And big shout to Deli. Deli stepped in and said, BRAP, I will replace Forte. I said, okay.
Damn, vicious out there, man.
No, you see? It's like dog eat dog out here now. Nah, man, it's
For real.
good to be here, man. What's going on with you guys? I see y'all in here talking nonsense about y'all not talking nonsense. Y'all talking about nonsense, but okay.
Yeah, man.
That's how it is, man.
Looking down the timeline at all these people who know how to run Fortune 5, 700 companies.
They don't even know how to run a $20 store.
Big
can't even manage their own bank accounts. Look, I just want to say, it's okay. So I want to go because this conversation, I saw this. I'm not gonna say who brought this up, but I was part of I was listening to a podcast today. This conversation came up, about PlayStation Plus, and I think part of this is coming up too because the CFO, I can't even talk today. The CFO of what's it called? Jesus, now I'm drawing a blank here. Why am I drawing? Of Sony, made some commentary about subscription services, right? And hold on a second, let me pull this up real quick. All right, so Sony CFO Hiroki Totoki, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, said, I will refrain from making comments on the competitor strategy. This is, by the way, anytime you say I will refrain from making comments on the competitor strategy, you are making comments about the competitor strategy, I think. Our current thinking is to leave, our current thinking is to have development cost appropriate R&D investment for quality products, and that will improve the platform and also improve the business in the long run. AAA type titles on PlayStation 5. If we distribute that on the subscription services, we may need to shrink the investment needed for that, and that will deteriorate the first party title quality. That is our concern. We'll discuss quality, by the way, because I think it means more than what people. I think people are missing the point of the quality thing. So that would deteriorate the first party title quality, and that is our concern. So we want to make sure we spend the appropriate development costs to have solid products, titles to be introduced in the right manner. So that's kind of kicked off a lot of people using that as ammunition, that Game Pass is not Game Pass hurts quality. Hence my clickbait title. Sony CFO says Game Pass hurts quality. I got to get a little clickbaitish. Why not? Why not? If the media can do it, why can't BRAP do it? That's my thinking right now. So
is there still media bias?
What's that?
Is there still media bias? I don't really see the war cries anymore.
Yeah, actually there is. It's on the Sony side now.
Okay.
Which what do we say? It flip flops every year, right? Or every generation.
How Pop said in Vampire in Brooklyn, everybody flip flopping.
Yep.
Exactly.
But yeah. So and then the conversation came up with somebody I saw. They brought this question up. They said, "Oh, I don't think Sony." And this is the mistake I think a lot of people in the gaming community make. I don't think any of us are really qualified per se to have those kinds of conversations because there's so much missing data that we don't know, things that we don't know or have access to. It's really hard to have those conversations at best, maybe at a very high level, but even then, without knowing what success means for, Microsoft or Sony, without GameLogic and I were discussing this earlier, the KPIs, right? Key performance indicators. Those conversations I think are hard to have. And when someone asks it, I'm like, well, I can't tell you, how do you arrive to that conclusion that you don't think something's going to be successful because it's not because they're not offering day and date? Are you defining success for Sony? Because if you are, that really doesn't mean much in the grand scheme of things. And, and if you think they are, and then the question was, the question then was asked, who thinks in the live chat thinks that PlayStation Plus is going to be successful? Well, define success, and the response was, well, what metrics are you using? What define? How are you quantifying success? And the response was, well, comparing it to Game Pass. But even then, that's not even. I don't even think a great way to gauge things, and I think that's a trap that a lot of people fall in the gaming community. And GameLogic, I'll go to you real quick. Would you kind of agree with that? That maybe some of us just don't have the insight to really have those meaningful conversations per se.
Yeah, I mean, I'll voice the response in two different vectors. Like one is one that I keep harping on, which people don't like. So I've given up and backed off of it. But you know, one of my basic tenets is like, if you're just not, you know, if you don't understand software development, if you don't understand project and program management, if you don't understand P&L, profit and loss, if you've never looked, right, and had exposure to a corporation's financials, if you've never been part of putting together a deal, right, and having to go and justify, right, all of the metrics and the upside and the downside, and if you've never been part of programming AOP, right, for an anim for a given business unit, like there's tons of kind of basic skill sets that you have to even be able to couch such an assessment in the appropriate terms that are actually relevant. And someone chastised me about that on Twitter, so I've said, Roger that. You know, everybody wants to kind of do the armchair quarterbacking, or you know, put on their, you know, certified accountant hat and break out their moleskin notebooks and mechanical pencils and do the math. I'm like, fine, okay, fine, I'll play along. But then the other part of it is kind of like you said, right? Then the problem becomes, okay, so everybody wants to participate, and that's fine, right? We can do, you know, the John Madden whiteboard. I get it. But just like you said, right? But then there are key parts of this that you then miss in that discussion of putting a deal like this together or putting a business venture together, where, you know, things from a Sony perspective are going to look one way and things from a Microsoft perspective are going to look differently. One of the analogs that I utilize is, you know, in the consumer electronics space, a lot of times people will say, well, why don't you just do what Apple does? Why don't you just do what the iPhone does? And I'm like, that's a you know, 2.5 and above, three, you know, oftentimes a $3 trillion company, right? They have divisions of the company that like combined would be within the top 100 of all businesses on the planet, right? If I break off like two pieces of Apple. Mm-hmm. That economy of scale is radically different, right, when having those discussions, and the same is true in the Microsoft and Sony comparison.
Game Logic, real quick.
Yeah, sorry, go ahead. Yeah,
economies of scale has always been my favorite word or phrase for some reason. I don't know why, but like I don't know. I'm sorry. Go ahead, man. I've heard it so many times in meetings. Economies of scale, you know, as relates to actually staffing. But I'm sorry. Go ahead, man.
No, and that's appropriate. And even in things like, and other things that you smatter around the gaming community, right? Like, can AMD do the same thing that Intel does? No, because the economies of scale are different. You know, same thing with NVIDIA and AMD, right? So these companies approach things with different strategies because there are different methodologies and different business models that best suit them and their framework and their objectives. And again, I can even put two corporations that are relatively the same size and have the same economies of scale, right? But if they're both approaching things with a different set of KPIs and a different set of things that are important, then they're going to come at things completely different ways, and they're going to have different measurements for success.
Yeah, and that was kind of my point, you know, to that kind of that my point to the person who posed that question, like, hey, you know, like, you know, these companies, and I said this, I think I already said this to Forte, to Slomo, I think in a super chat, I said, you know, these companies are leveraging these subscription services for different reasons. You know, Sony's, you know, looking to leverage PlayStation Plus as a way to kind of keep people engaged in the ecosystem, right? Where Microsoft's using, you know, GamePass as a way to really kind of grow that base a little bit more, right? Outside of the traditional model of, you know, selling hardware and things like that. So different, you know, different priorities, different motivators, right? And you know, those things need to be taken into consideration, especially if you're going to try to make that comparison of the two services, right? I think obviously I could see why people would naturally come to that, would you know, look at those two services and say, oh, they're exactly alike. Well, yeah, I mean, they are. I mean, they're both subscription services, but the motivations behind those services are different, you know. So I'm sorry, man, I cut you off, but go ahead.
No. I mean, that's you know, just kind of the same thing that I was getting at. You know, an analog is the company that I left a little while ago, right? We were engaged in a business venture with one of the largest cloud service providers on the planet, right? We had to make a decision about how we were going to approach that to kind of lock down that market segment and gain exclusivity. And so we made an investment, right? And we made that investment by engineering labor effort, right, that came out of corporate. And so that business venture was my responsibility and accountability from a P&L perspective, right? And so my success was measured by the profit that I turned. However, the cost of that additional labor effort was not applied to my P&L center, right? So that was being provided by additional effort supplied by corporate out of our R&D shop. And so, you know, in the corporate discussions, right, that went around and round about staffing and scope and who was going to cover what, I was obviously very interested, invested in getting as much help as I possibly could from that corporate R&D center, right? So, because that wasn't going to land on my books. And so that then also made a difference in how I approached the market in terms of different things that I went after, because that put me in a situation where, hey, everything that I go after doesn't have to be upside, right? There's a compensating set of ballast here that I don't necessarily have to be worried about that some other competitor might have to. And so, again, you know, when you look at what Microsoft can leverage versus what Sony can leverage, those optics are radically different. You know, we talked earlier today about the Netflix versus, you know, and I brought up the Amazon model.
Yeah.
And I'm like, everybody's optics on Netflix's earnings are bad, right? And I'm like, yeah, because they're a standalone streaming service. That is what they do, right? But if you applied those same KPIs, those same metrics, and looked at Amazon Prime, you might not bat an eye at what happened to Netflix if that happened to Amazon, because Amazon has tons of other business ventures. And that same analog kind of overlays in an appropriate manner, I think, to Microsoft and Sony. And so to make it super, super, super simple, right? If GamePass is losing money, let's make that assumption, and let's just take everything else in Microsoft and make it the other half of a binary bucket, and all of that in aggregate is making money, does it matter that GamePass is losing money, right? It might not. It depends on what thresholds they've set and what expectations they've set and how they've conveyed that as guidance to Wall Street.
Which we don't know
which we don't know, right?
We don't know what that threshold is. Yeah.
Right. So at its most basic, it should be patently clear and obvious to anyone participating in the conversation that it is okay for Game Pass to lose a certain amount of money. It doesn't become relevant until a certain point. And I guarantee you that Microsoft has those guardrails on that business model, that there's a threshold to which, you know, once costs drive in a certain direction and crest a certain limit, there's going to start to be questions and changes in how that business model is being approached. And then kind of at a more granular technical level, right, another thing for people to, I think people should understand in the comparison of the models is when Microsoft has to host stuff or stream stuff and offer it through Xbox Cloud Gaming, there is an infrastructure cost that they are not paying, right? Because those services are hosted on Microsoft Azure, which is owned by Microsoft, right? There's probably some internal incremental, you know, cost load sharing between those two profit and loss centers, but it's not the same. It's not at the same rate and at the same economy that Sony is paying. Sony services are also hosted by Microsoft Azure, or at least that's the intent. We don't know, quite frankly, right, what the real overall strategy is. I'm just going to assume that it's 100% on Azure, but we don't know. It could very well be 80% on Azure and another 20% on kind of third-tier cloud service providers, particularly when you get over into certain regions of the world where, you know, Microsoft may not have a decent enough footprint, or it might actually be a better economy of scale for Sony to go with a different cloud service provider. But let's just say, for the sake of discussion, it's 100%. That is money that Sony is paying Microsoft to host its services, right? And so again, the costs and the economies of scale are different, and how those balance sheets work out and that investment looks are different.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. God, I love that word, phrase, economies of scale. Again, that goes back. That's anyhow. Let me rope in E. What are your thoughts, E, man? Like on the whole, what the Sony CFO said as relates to, you know, quality, you know, that you have to keep this, you know, level of quality up. They can't do that in a subscription type service. What are your thoughts, man?
Excuse me. Honestly, I think it just comes down to things that we've been talking about just in general. Like, they have a different model and a different way that they want to go about it. And I don't understand why if a CFO is telling you, and you have other people who have worked in the company are coming out to tell you that, yeah, this is pretty much how it works, why all these like armchair legal analysts and these armchair like CFOs are jumping up to tell them that they're wrong and that they're lying and not telling the truth. It's like, we know, Microsoft has a war chest big enough to support what they're doing, but the thing is, even with them, I'm sure they have a ceiling that they will, on a threshold that they will not go beyond. You don't stay a multi-trillion-dollar company by just throwing away money, right? Or just, you know what I'm saying? So there's no big secret here. There's no big mystery. We know that, when it comes to, just financials, no, not many companies can compete with a Microsoft. There's very few in the realms that make the types of money that Microsoft makes. Sony is not in that realm, so they have to be a little bit more measured about how they do things. They're going after a quality play. Say Nintendo deals in quality for their platform. They want to make sure that their games hit a certain echelon. I'm not saying Microsoft doesn't want the same thing, but being that they're a service-based company, their model makes sense for what they are trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean that every company has to do the same exact thing.
I was just about to ask you that. Like, doesn't that mean that two companies don't have to do the same thing? I think people.
Well, that's the funny thing, Enrique. Is like, think back on different discussions that we've seen, and again, we're talking about all this within the bubble. I think the gaming community, the true gaming community at large, doesn't give a shit about any of this stuff.
No, they don't care.
I'm not saying that there aren't people that don't outside of it, but we're talking about what's going on inside the bubble. And what's hilarious is, whenever it came to a game discussion last generation, like, where are the games? What's going on? Xbox has no games. Where are the games? What was the thing that you would always hear people say? Well, I don't think that they have to do the same thing Sony's doing.
Right.
Right? I want them to blaze their own path. These two companies can be opposite of each other and still find success and do the same thing. Why doesn't that apply now?
I want to just break in with a question. I know this is going to get me in trouble, and I told myself I was going to stop doing this. So one question for a person in the chat, just because I want to, entertain as much of the conversation as we can.
You already know, Logic. Go ahead and burn the barn down, man.
So We Bleed Gangrene has made two comments. Not even the other companies in Microsoft's tax bracket are choosing to do a Game Pass type service. It's because it hadn't proven to be a success. One of my questions is, what other game company is there in the gaming industry that's $2 trillion? So I'm not sure who you're saying their peers are. Once we identify that, maybe we can have a discussion about it.
Google?
What did he say?
He said not even the other companies in Microsoft's tax bracket. Now, I don't know tax law for corporations as much, so I'm just going to associate that with market cap.
Just take it as market cap. Yeah.
Right. Are choosing to do a Game Pass type service. It's because it hadn't proven to be a success. So my first question is, what other companies are we talking about? Then the second one was, no other company in gaming cares to do a Game Pass service but them. Ubi tried, and now they're practically begging to be acquired. And again, I go back to, I mean, for the purposes of this conversation, what I would say is, if we're going to talk about a company that's at a radically different economy of scale, I don't think that's a valid comparison. Again, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I real quick, I just want to say something. So this not even other companies in Microsoft's tax bracket are choosing to do a Game Pass type service. It's because like, how do you know that We Bleed Gangrene? Are you sitting in these board meetings? Like this is the kind of shit that drives me bonkers. Like, are you sitting in these meetings? Like, do you have inside knowledge? Are you talking to, and I don't know who the CEO of Google is by name, but are you meeting with if you do, I would love to have you on the show to give us some insight to this stuff. I mean, like, and that kind of statement, like, let's face it, like, there's other companies, that have done things that no other companies have done before because they want to create a new revenue stream that exists within an industry, or they want to be a disruptor. So I mean, this is what companies do. They take chances. I don't that whole, well, it hasn't been proven to be a success, but therefore it's a bad idea. I don't buy that. That's just bad comparison.
Right, and I think that, and I apologize. We really agree. I didn't identify your question, like call you out. Right, it's you were asking good questions that I think are worthy of discussion.
No, I don't know that, man. That based on that avatar, man, I'm not going with those being good questions. I'm sorry, but like,
all right, I tried to show him some deference. I don't want people to slink away.
He's saying we're speculating. I mean, like, no.
Go ahead.
I also think Xbox and Microsoft in general, because they're funding the whole thing. I think it's part of their core competency. That's something that they have been.
Hey, Forte, you turn your mic up a little bit, man.
Forever. Oh, turn it up some. Yeah, I think that's something they've been doing for quite some time now. When they started the whole GamePass and games as a service, the first thing I said is like, you know what? This is more likely going to work for them, because this is literally what they do. They're all about. They've never been really a hardware company outside of Surface, because Surface and Xbox are probably the two most profitable things that they have when it comes to hardware. Outside of that, everything is all services and software. And that is their bread and butter when it comes to that. So I just always looked at it as like, if they're going to make it in gaming, this is the direction they're going to go. And obviously, and I said this on Luca's show when Luca was streaming earlier today, when we were talking about all this stuff. People got to kind of realize that gaming is just a small fraction of a foothold for what Xbox and for Microsoft in general. You gotta. It's all going through the cloud. It's all going through Azure. All of that stuff's tied together.
Azure.
Everybody that looks at that graph that was tweeted out like a week ago during their earnings call, where they were talking about the cloud service being $52 billion in revenue for the company and everything like that. You got to kind of look at it, on the outside looking in. So, okay, gaming did about a tenth of that. It was like 10.6 billion or something like that. But the biggest thing, the reason Xbox is willing to do this and willing to lose money on the Xbox side of it is because everything is going through the cloud. And all of these bigger businesses, when it comes to like the government or any of these other entities that want to get a part of the piece of the pie that Xbox has, they can go to those companies and say, look how stable our infrastructure is. Look how many different ventures and avenues we have tied to our Azure cloud network. Everybody that's on an Xbox right now, you are participating in helping Microsoft shop their biggest asset to the rest of the world. So yeah, they'll go out and spend $70 billion or something like that. Yeah.
I'm sorry. Can you go back and say that one more time?
Okay. So
helping them shop, what's that now?
You are literally helping them shop themselves to all of these bigger companies out there that they want to be in business with, like the US government and stuff.
Thank you.
You are literally, that's what Xbox is to them. It's not saying that they don't take Xbox serious. They do, because guess what? That is a foothold that gets them more users. How do you get more users inside of your ecosystem? Gamers. Why they want 3 billion gamers in there? Because guess what? If they can get a fraction of that in there and everybody interacting inside of the cloud network, they can shop that to other people. They can shop that and say, our infrastructure is so strong. We have gaming involved. We have computing involved. We have all of these other things that have nothing to do with gaming. And that is what's going to contribute to that 62 or $52 billion revenue that they're making just in the cloud. Guess what's going to happen when they finally purchase King? People were talking about, Call of Duty. Call of Duty is just a foothold in that conversation. The biggest thing that they went after was going to be number 4 in revenue when it comes to King itself. King is going to make that even bigger. And what is King going to do for the infrastructure of the cloud side of it? How much more money is going to be brought into the ecosystem when it comes to that being added into the equation? So people kind of really stop thinking about the gaming side of it when it comes to Microsoft and them losing money, because guess what? Xbox might be losing money, but Microsoft is looking at gaming like, we will fund this until the end of time as long as we can always shop this to people that have bigger pockets that's going to basically subsidize everything that's going on when it comes to the gaming side. So Xbox is just going to keep doing this because they finally found a blueprint that really works for them. And honestly, that's spending their money, and nobody thought they would actually do it.
Forte, to your point, man. I mean, you know, they are positioning themselves. That platform is saying, hey, we can do this for this industry, we can do that for this industry, and gaming's a growing industry, and there is a part of the gaming industry that is going to be reliant on, cloud, and so they're in a position to be able to get people on that platform that are in that industry. So they got Sony, right? So I want to real quick. I want to open B Money. What's up? First of all, B, what's up, man?
B.
Is B there?
On, fellas?
B Money. What's up, B?
What's happening?
Man with the giant beard, man.
Yeah, B.
I had to jump in real quick. I can't stay.
No, you're good, bro.
I've got some stuff I got to take care of, but
no doubt, man. Go ahead, man.
I had to jump in real quick. You know what I mean? This is E's last show. I'm rocking out with you for a long time, so I had to make sure I was here at least for a moment to at least say goodbye to our good bro.
Show.
What?
He lied to us. It's not his last show.
Don't listen to Forte.
Yeah, don't listen to me. It's his last show.
Go ahead, B.
Yeah, Enrique pulled a contract out on me, B.
B was like, "What the hell? I'm gone. I'll come back next time."
Yeah, no, but I had to make sure I was here. That means say goodbye to the good brother. So
appreciate you, B. For real.
For
appreciate
sure.
you, man.
Yeah, but you guys are having a great conversation talking about everything that's going on with Microsoft and the cloud and their business structure. So I don't really have too much to add to that. So y'all can get back to it, man.
All right, B.
Appreciate you, B. For real, man.
Yes, sir. You already know, man.
I'll still be around. We're gonna chop it up, especially like we said, when these cats get crazy on the timeline. I'm gonna have to jump in and
we're gonna tag you in, man, like they do in wrestling.
Yeah, man. There you go.
You gotta cut the DPS and make sure you pick up his signing bonus first, though.
Hey, yeah. I heard that.
Yeah. Hey, but Forte spitting bars like Pinky up here, man. Let's go.
Like, we got signing bonuses over here. Yeah. Pockets ain't that deep, but they deep enough to give some people some stuff.
Yeah, but AB,
Forte's on to them, man. It's like you have to kind of look at it in terms of what Xbox sort of is. Like he's like Forte saying what it is to Microsoft as a whole. It's like Microsoft is the rich dad that can keep buying, good grades for his kid and adding library wings and gymnasiums onto the campus. It's like, no, you're not gonna flunk out. We're gonna make this work.
You're gonna make it work. Because guess what? When it works for us in other areas.
Right.
That's the
and I mean, again, we can speculate, and I just honestly feel that when Satya and Phil sat down, Satya's like, I am not a gamer. Explain this. I look at platform. I look at what we do. How does this now fit? How can we make this fit? Because right now it's not fitting. It's your little console was cute. That's cute. You had X Games and selling Mountain Dew. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
How does this thing fit what we do?
On a global scale.
And
right.
That's when he went into that room and was like,
he put his pee-pee on the table.
He's like, you're not a gamer, but what I can do is, and they were talking about Xbox is about subscriptions and stuff, and that's where GamePass was born. And he was like, and how are we? So how is GamePass or how is that going to help Microsoft? He was like, well, it's all going to be tied through the cloud. It's going to be tied through Azure. It's going to be tied to people's phones. It's going to be tied to their PCs and their consoles. And even when a console is out of production, when it comes to the original Xbox or the Xbox, and we're not making those games natively for the system, and you can still use them to stream through the cloud. All of those people have to go through Azure. All those people going through our infrastructure. And guess what you can do with that infrastructure? You can sell that infrastructure to the highest bidders when it comes to that type of stuff and get more people interested in it because they see that the infrastructure is strong. You ain't going to have a weak infrastructure when you got billions and billions of people all interacting with it at any given time, and it just makes your product look even better than it actually is. And guess what? Gaming is going to do that faster than anything because gaming is growing and there's more people every day picking up a controller in some form or fashion, doing something when it comes to interactive media, and that's what Microsoft is going after.
Right.
Yeah.
A few other things we should hang it on to. Actually, I'm really surprised. I didn't think we were going to flesh out the Microsoft strategy so much tonight. But this is. I think a lot of gamers, maybe because they don't pay attention to the enterprise side and some other things that have been going on in the industry, or maybe just haven't been exposed to them yet. Right. It's not like this is a wackadoodle strategy that's coming out of left field, right? This is how the overall Microsoft corporation has been proceeding. They've converted from selling Windows as a cardboard boxed, shrink wrapped thing on a shelf in a store. They've converted from selling Microsoft Office that way and coming up with a business model that stopped the complaining, right? Which I used to do as well, which is, hey, why do you keep asking me every year to pay $200, $300 for Microsoft Office when I can't really visibly see like the incremental changes that are applied. Right. And so a lot of these things they've converted over to this subscription model because it makes sense. And again, that's not just Microsoft. That's the way the entire software engineering business has been going. And much like the entire software engineering, software development industry has been going, there tend not to be singular stovepiped models. Right. When I did voltage optimization for the electrical grid industry, right, we offered it as a standalone application. We offered it with installation and commissioning services as an enterprise application. We offered it as a hosted service, right? So we had multiple delivery methods that could be tailored to suit, right, the different types of customers. And so Xbox has Game Pass. They have games that they sell. They have a mix of things that they do within that division to earn revenue. And so one of the things I've kind of pushed back against this week, has been people keep talking about Game Pass as if it is this sole P&L center revenue generation machine that it is burdened with all of the costs of all first-party development, and that it's all on Game Pass to recoup that cost. And I'm like, that's not how it's structured. I almost guarantee you it's not.
Sorry, guys, I'm cleaning up the chat here. Hold on a sec.
Clean up the chat.
Yeah, we got some console warriors in here. We got some haters, some console warriors.
So BRAP, what do you actually? Okay, so let's take your clickety clacks off, take your PC hat off, and all that other stuff. Take it off for 20 seconds. I need 20 seconds of your undivided attention. Do you think, after everything we just laid out, do you still think that the way that Xbox is going, is it the right direction for them, or do you think it's the right direction for them? Because I know you talk about how the games and everything, and I'm with you.
I mean, look, games
matter, but we're just talking about the direction at this point.
Like what Logic said from the enterprise side of things. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is their DNA.
Right.
I mean, makes sense. I mean, like just like Sony is a hardware manufacturer, they want to make they want to make premium devices that you buy. Right. We've seen this over and over again with Sony.
That's wrong, Enrique.
That's wrong.
Yeah, it's wrong.
The funny thing about
McDonald's has got to serve tacos because Taco Bell does. Damn it.
You want to know the funny thing?
McDonald's tried to serve tacos at one point. They don't. McDonald's. You can't use them, Enrique. Man, they'll try any damn thing. They have McPizza and all kind of shit.
Oh yeah, you're right. Maybe McDonald's isn't a good. I'm waiting for like the McDonald's to come out with like I don't know, the Mick egg roll or something. Like
empanadas.
Yeah.
The crazy
the
thing is
patty.
when you think of, oh yeah, definitely. The crazy thing is when you think about Sony and, like you said, being a hardware manufacturer, and especially with them dealing with the whole chip shortage right now and everything that's going on, it just reminds you that a lot of the stuff that was being rumored and talked about during the year of the PlayStation 5 and Series X coming out, or even the year before that, where they were talking about Sony having production issues and stuff like that when it comes to getting as many consoles they want out the door. They went from saying they were going to have 15 million during the first physical year down to, I think they said 11 million is what they ended up saying that they basically dedicated for that first year. But then you got to remember, people were saying that PlayStation 5s were almost ready to come out way earlier that year. They just delayed to the end of the year because there was a lot of rumors saying, the PlayStation 5 is already ready to release. They're just They're just getting stock up on it. But now you're starting to see that they had a lot of systems at launch, like to the point where Xbox is still big. I don't even think Xbox even produced as many systems as PlayStation has out in the wild. Even though, and if you look at that number now, it looks kind of crazy because Xbox is like, I'll sell them due to the supply restraints. But I still think PlayStation has more systems in the ecosystem that aren't even bought than there's probably Xboxes on shelves. And that's even talking about scalpers and stuff like that are still probably holding on to systems. You probably want to still guarantee at least $1 million, $1.5 million to people like that are just holding on to those systems on different reselling sites and stuff. But I think PlayStation really hit the ground running when it came to systems day one, up through that first holiday. And then it just kind of tapered off, where Xbox kind of just went with the plan of just manufacturing them as they can get them. They didn't really overextend when they first got them, and that's why you're seeing Xbox be kind of consistent. And then you throw the Microsoft money, if you want to believe the whole conversation around them buying, priority when it comes to that, which I can see happening. I can definitely see that happening because you got the money and you can, get the supply faster than anybody else. You can get your systems out there faster than somebody else. So I just think Xbox is kind of playing a different game than PlayStation is, but it doesn't mean that PlayStation game is wrong, because they have one of the systems that everybody truly wants. We have another drop of PlayStation's coming up on the 28th of May, but that's literally, think about that. That's a month after our last one. So, because our last one was April 27th. So it's just going to be a real consistent thing when it comes to this whole shortage thing with that. And then I also think that you're just not going to see systems really in any realm of fashion probably for the next year and a half, honestly.
Yeah,
if not longer.
So one of the things I want to ask you guys, and I'd be interested to see what some responses are from the chat too, is as all these conversations go around, like on Twitter and all the warring and the fighting, and I'm like, people denigrate, Game Pass for doing subscriptions at all. Right. People, then cast, eyes at Sony for not doing day and date. Like both sides of this kind of idiotic console war, and maybe even I take it down a notch from the console war, but people who just have this approach or this philosophy that like one of these two companies just should not be in the business of doing what it's doing at all. What do people want? Because I'm really curious to know, like, my personal feeling is at the end of this console generation, it would be great if Sony was right back to having converted, all of its user base over to PlayStation 5s and, plus a little bit of growth. And we're at 120, 130 million PlayStation 5 units out in the wild, right? Like actually in users' hands, not like sitting on the shelves of scalpers. And it would be great for Xbox if there were, 60 to 80 million units out there, right, of various Xbox SKUs, and that, Nintendo was somewhere in between the two of them, right? That to me would create a decent stratification of the market, so that a healthy degree of competition was there and in place, and each of the vendors was still incentivized to kind of try and do something different from a strategy perspective. We've said it a lot of times, like, this is a great time to be a gamer, and being somebody who's observed the entirety of gaming since its inception, right, for home consoles up until now, this is also the time that I could say that I feel like all three vendors are taking very different approaches to the market, right? Even back in the days of the Nintendo and Sega approach, right? At the end of the day, those two companies were really kind of sort of doing the same thing, right? With some minor tweaks, right, in their two approaches. But this is a time where, all three are doing something really different. And then, not just differentiated against, sales of individual titles, but then also from their services aspect, which has become a much bigger part of the dynamic since the Xbox 360 era. So just kind of, for you guys and people in the chat, right? When we say things like Xbox Game Pass is wrong or PlayStation Plus needs to be day and date, right? What is the what is the hope even, right? Or do people hope that we're going to get down to like 2 competitors and that we only need Sony and Nintendo, and we want Xbox to get out, or we want PlayStation to fail? Like that's part of this dynamic that I keep trying to figure out.
I think at the end of the day, they just want they want to be able to, puff out their chest.
Yeah, that's all.
And basically, my team won, so I told you so. And it's about, you know what? It's a pointless argument. Like it is. If you're a gamer, if you're a real gamer, the only thing you should be concerned about is getting great gaming experiences and getting gaming experiences that you want for whatever platform you support, right? Whether it's PC, Nintendo, PlayStation, Xbox. I mean, like, but some of the stuff that I'm seeing in the live chat is like some of the shit that is kind of like why is this? Why are we having things? Like someone and I'm going to call you out, Kertopsy, because I saw you say this, where you say consumers think that like Game Pass is a cancer. Well, how do you know that? I mean, if you're using Twitter as your sample size, that's a shit sample size to use because it's so tiny. Clearly, people don't think it's a shit service or a cancer per se because you have 30 million people or 25 million people that subscribe to it, right? That are using it. Again, this goes back to what I've been saying about consumer goods. People are going to find values in things that other people don't find value in. It's not a zero-sum game. I don't understand where this mentality comes from. At the end of the day, if you're happy with the platform you're playing on, that's all you should. That's all you care about. Like it's just that's it.
Funny,
funny
thing.
Oh, go ahead, Fortune.
No, I'm gonna say the funny thing about that, if PlayStation, what kills me is this whole notion that about what Game Pass, and just because of it being in existence, what it's doing like a cancer or something. If PlayStation did this same exact thing, you wouldn't be hearing this. If they had the same thing when it came to people kill me with this whole listen, we support the developers. I understand it, but everybody out here wants deals. Nobody, how many people did you see run out and get extra years of PlayStation Now to stack on their membership just so they can get their membership to be for a longer time? Now, PlayStation didn't tell you to go out there and do it. You did it because guess what? You wanted a deal. You wanted a deal on your gaming experience because gaming is a very expensive hobby. Gaming, it costs $40 to $70 per game. It could cost you $60 to $70 for a controller, and God knows the systems cost $300 to $500 each. So everybody out here capping on this whole thing, talking about it's not a good value or this or that. Like, you want to support the developers. Some people will do that. Some people will actually have a service like Game Pass and they still will buy the game at full price when the day it comes out. It's not too many of those people because you know what? Everybody wants to get their stuff for cheaper. Can't nobody sit here and tell me when they go into Walmart or they go into like Best Buy and they see something cheaper on Amazon, they're gonna be like, yo, can you match this price from Amazon? You ain't gonna pay the $30 that you cost at Best Buy. You gonna say, yo, Amazon got it for $26. Can I get my $4 off? Because anybody that says some stuff like that, y'all frauding. Because y'all all want to save money. Nobody. So the fact that people are on Game Pass and they talk about how it's a good value for them and all of these other different things, that's their opinion. You may not agree with their opinion, but don't act like there's not a portion of your life you don't walk around and try to find a way to save a buck or two because you're lying to yourself, and you don't need to do that because it's a free country. You can do whatever you want with your money.
I mean, yeah, that's
how many companies spend, millions a year on price match strategies,
right?
Incentive programs and everything. So
because people want to save
nobody's
money.
using them, right? Because nobody wants to save money, right?
It's stupid. It's crazy.
And to what Logic said, what he asked, like, what do people want? And that's something I've always asked too. Is like, would you be happy are you trying to convert people? Because that seems to be like a thing that people try to do. Is like, I'm going to argue with you until you agree with me, because hopefully that'll convert you because we need numbers. That's a weird thing, right? That's what it seems like, right? Sometimes when it comes down to like the base, like essence of it is, join us. So if tomorrow somebody just said, "Yeah, you're right. You know what? I'm not gonna argue with you anymore. You're right. I see the value in it. I'm coming over." Do you check off on the board like that's one for our side? It's like it's just weird. And then it basically comes down to for like on the Xbox side of it, validation for the move Microsoft made in the Game Pass. So if Sony goes day and day, then that proves to them that what Microsoft did was right. And then on the flip side, with Sony guys, I want to support the devs. I'm gonna buy my games. I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. It's because Sony's deciding that's the model that they want to go with. So they gotta do whatever they can to kind of make it sound like Game Pass is, the devil, right? And like I said, then there's people that just sit in the middle and say, "Give me the games. That's what I'm here for. I don't really give a shit how you give them to me." And that's the thing. Like Forte said, people acting like deals or something new and trying to find games cheaper. Dudes that were out there last generation saw games that came up for $60. What's the first thing they said, Forte? I'll wait for a sale. So it's nothing new. It's the same thing. It's just shifting narratives.
Yeah, no, absolutely is he. Yeah, no,
we gotta win this shit.
What's that?
Because we gotta win this shit.
Well, I think that's what it's about, man. It's about winning.
It's like win what?
Yeah, I'm still waiting for my for my participation trophy from Sony last generation. I guess yeah, I think that's what it is. Like I think we probably all agree that people just what they want. Game Logic is to beat their chest out and say, "See, I told you so." We're vindicated, and that's so weird to me. That's so weird because do we do that for other consumer products? Like, does someone go out there and pound their chest for Chiquita and say Chiquita's better than Dole? You know what I mean? Like, does that happen?
Right?
Are they Juice Wars?
Yeah, and in a lot of ways, I mean, there's tons of it I really don't get, and maybe I'll fall short of maybe my my loaded backhand insult that was going to be derived from the responses to the question. Like, but but maybe not. But the people who were like, yeah, we only need Sony and Nintendo, or PlayStation Plus is the right way to game. Like, I guess there's a part of me that kind of questions whether or not people who have that perspective actually love games, right? Mm-hmm. Or there are people who are whatever, I don't know, they're probably maybe one of the best. There are people who love motorcycles, right? There are motorcyclists, right? And when I rode, there were lots of these guys who, would go out and buy Gixxers and, had their RX-1s, but when you talk to them, didn't really know anything about motorcycles and weren't really motorcyclists, and would throw shade at like all the different types of bikes that were on the market. And I'm like, the mark of a motorcyclist is someone who appreciates a very wide panacea of different riding styles and types and different things that are on the market. And that's somebody who really loves like the beauty of motorcycling. If I call myself a movie lover, right, I don't necessarily want everything to be an Oscar-winning movie. I don't necessarily want a market full of Ben-Hurs and the Titanic coming out every year, right? I like The Evil Dead, right? I like The Army of Darkness, right? I like B movies, right? We talk about these things that have cult followings and niche followings. And so everything also in a market doesn't need to be, 100% S tier, right? There needs to be variety and diversity on the market. And quite frankly, when there's not, those things that are up at that 100% S tier type stuff suddenly become more expensive when there's no competition, right? So I guess what's kind of foolish to me from people who understand economics and people who clearly don't, if you want a less diverse oligopoly, right, composed of only two competitors, while you're concurrently complaining about being asked to spend an additional $10 for games, right, then you need to understand that by having the wish of just wanting Sony and Nintendo, you're inherently talking about a more expensive hobby in a more expensive market where there's going to be less choice. So it's just an interesting perspective to have. I personally like markets where I have a wide degree of choice and where there's healthy competition.
Yeah, I would agree with that because, some of the best generations were generations where we had, more than 2 or 3 console manufacturers, right? Like that there was a time where that was the case. And, I mean, like competition is actually a good thing that benefits, consumers, right? Yeah, I don't know. I want to pivot here real quick, guys, because I'm seeing this pop up. Somebody live just says a DRM strapped console shouldn't exist. Let's talk about DRM, by the way. Xbox, the Xbox was down this past weekend. People couldn't access their content. I'm sure we all know the story here, what happened. And so this has spurred the conversation of DRM's draconian. But you know what's funny, Game Logic? I didn't even think about DRM until you and I had a conversation earlier in the week, and I'm like, and you said something to the effect like, we just didn't get here today. Like there's always been some sort of DRM, right? And it goes back to the days, at least for me, I remember playing on PC, having to input keys, or there was a game I played, probably back in 1993. It was called KGB, and the way you access the game every time you signed on was you had to provide the names of three characters based on their picture, and that information was based on the booklet that came with the game that you bought, right? So this idea that DRM or having to check or have some kind of license or whatever it is, it's not new. And I look, I understand the frustration, like, if the internet goes down, you're kind of like stuck like Chuck. And in fact, I think there's an issue with Microsoft. Microsoft did say that if your console's set to home, you shouldn't have any validation issues. I forget exactly what it was, but it sounds like in this case, this didn't happen, and that's actually that's an issue that they should rectify. But this notion of DRM and being draconian and having to check your license, that's not new. So so what I open up to you guys, like, what do you guys think about this whole DRM conversation and what happened with Xbox this past weekend?
I'll let Logic jump on that one first.
All right, Game Logic, we'll go with you first.
I love how the dynamic here is let me put my foot in and get my head chopped off on the block and chat first.
Yes.
so that everybody can swing in and be the good guys.
Yeah, exactly.
So I mean, maybe the first place to start is just kind of with history, because I think that's kind of a general place that I like to start. It's very poignant and super relevant that this week also happens to be the week that I think Apple is finally retiring the iPod. And if people kind of remember and think back to kind of how the DRM schemes kind of first came into place or first really started being discussed. And I mean, and I'll go back maybe. The DRM schemes, anti-copy, anti-tamper schemes have been in place since like the 80s. All of these companies have tried to devise ways and methodologies to prevent, to do what DRM is really for, which is to prevent the illegal copying, modification, and distribution of copyright protected creative works, right? That's the textbook legal definition. And so those things have been around, literally forever. But you go back to like the inception of the iPod, right? And there were all of these things that had to be discussed. And one of the podcasts I was listening to today talked about, hey, when did the iPod really take off? And it came out in, I think, October of 2001. But, the two significant bumps that really kind of catapulted the iPod to popularity were when it initially rolled out, it was only available, it could only be managed via iTunes, and iTunes only existed on Mac. And so the first big bump was, when they spread that over to Windows. One of the other second big bumps was when the big DRM scheme was stripped from iTunes, and you could actually play those songs on things other than Apple products. So this topic, my point is that this topic of DRM has been around for an incredibly long time. It's present in music, and there are subcomponents of a DRM schema, right? It's not just the check-in. And in fact, the check-in can be implemented in a way that is essentially separate from a DRM schema. A login and a checking of your credentials is something that can happen and will happen separate and regardless from DRM. So there are multiple components to a DRM schema. Then when you talk about network services and network outages, there are different components of that network service that apply to, you know, what may be a woven together integrated DRM schema. And so it's feasible in these services to do something like be able to log in, but not be able to hit a license validation server. So, you know, what went on this weekend, I think, first of all, is an incredibly difficult thing to assess, because I see lots of different reports from Xbox gamers who weren't able to play their games and lots of reports from Xbox gamers who were able to play their games. I can't tell if people had their consoles not designated at home and tried to do so during the network outage. And I'm like, well, that's not going to work, because you actually need to be connected to the network to designate a new Xbox as home. So there's just a ton of different variables, as to what went on this weekend. So I think one of the things is it's right now, today, I would contend it's impossible to know for certain exactly what went on this weekend, and hopefully Microsoft will address that, being that this is the run-up to their 6/12 showcase, which is amazingly a almost carbon copy mirror of the PlayStation Network outage of 2011. We're kind of in the same time window. Their network went down for 24 days. I would hope that, you know, as they briefly addressed it during their E3 showcase and E3 keynote, that Microsoft would do the same, and we would start to hear some forensics of kind of what went down. I think, you know, I think where I land is there is going to be a DRM schema. There is going to be some mechanism by which, again, publishers, developers, etc., are able to limit the illegal copying, modification, and distribution of their copyright-protected creative works. That's going to happen. It has been forever. I think the exact methodology by which that is implemented is a thing that's open for discussion. I think what went on this weekend, once we determine, you know, what really happened, hopefully there will be an assessment of like why the documented methodology for using and accessing your games while offline, which is documented. It's on the Xbox support pages. It's in like 3 different places. I copy and pasted links for that and posted it on Twitter. If it was the case that didn't work for some gamers, hopefully we will hear some traceability as to why. And if that's a Microsoft side problem, then hopefully it will get addressed and fixed.
Yeah. And that's why I brought that up about the home thing, because that's something they said would work. Apparently didn't work. You know, and it's something they should definitely address. But go ahead.
And it didn't work for some, right? Again, if you look at Twitter, you see people who say that they were able to play their games with zero problem, and you see that there are people who said that they couldn't access any.
It wasn't a worldwide thing. It was still a lot of people, but it was a lot. It was still sporadic. Like, I know because I share with my daughter, and she was still able to play, but I wasn't able to play because the games. All the games are owned by me, and she was able to still play them because she was logged in and under home, even offline. Whereas if I had games that were physical, I was able to play those unless they had an online component where you had to be attached to a server. If you had to be attached to the server, then they wouldn't play. But like games like Tales of Arise, I was able to boot that up and still play it, but I wasn't able to do games like Destiny or NBA because all that stuff is, you know, even though they got single player components, they're cloud based.
Right. And I think that's maybe part of what BRAP wanted me to bring up too, was just to kind of try and clarify some of these differences, right? So I think we're in a bad zone where a lot of the gaming community basically points at anywhere where there's internet connectivity being required is now placed under this umbrella of, well, that's DRM, you know, GamePass is DRM. And I'm like, okay, no, there's parts and components of the DRM schema, and then there's actual game functionality that requires an internet connection, right? And Forte, you just said, you know, Destiny 2 is a server-side enabled game, and so there are functions that are inherent to Destiny 2 that require it to have a connection. That's not part of the DRM schema. That's part of the game's functional capability. Same thing, you know, a good model to look at is The Division 2, right? Where I can pass account validation. I bought mine through the Epic Game Store, so I could pass account validation at the Epic Game Store. I have to pass it again at Ubisoft Connect. But in certain cases, if the Division 2 server is still down, I still can't access and play the game, right? So I've hit the DRM gates, right, that are necessary and that I have to traverse, but that the game may still be down. We have Nintendo games that are partially cloud enabled. So I think part of the thing that gamers need to come to terms with is look at the games that you consider playing and look at what's in your library and understand where, right, increasingly in this world that we're in, internet connectivity is going to become a thing that's required as these games implement different content, right? Watchdog Legions has content that you can access when you don't have an internet connection, but then it has a ton of content that you can't, right? And I guess, and I haven't experienced it firsthand, but I guess, you know, they did some type of job, I guess a notionally good job at kind of separating, you know, how the game can still function and allow you to access some of that content. So I just think that there's some separations between, you know, what people think DRM is and what it actually is. And yeah, another thing that I'll add is, you know, subscription services, obviously, you know, things potentially impacted GamePass. I think one of my things is, while I might have an expectation to be able to access a game that I had purchased offline, whether it be digital or physical, I don't know, you know, Netflix allows you to download movies, Hulu allows you to download movies, Amazon Prime allows you to download movies. I don't know that I have an expectation, having done it a lot, I don't know that I have an expectation that I would download 10 episodes of a show, right, put them on my iPad, disconnect it from the internet, have it disconnected for, I don't know, some number of months, right, and then be able to go back and access those downloaded episodes without ever having, again, checked back in and gotten validated as a valid Netflix subscriber in good standing with my account paid up to date. That's just not, I think, in my mind, in our network world, I just don't know that that's a reasonable expectation.
Well, no, what's a reasonable expectation, Logic? That when you buy a game and you've been online for like forever with your console, that shit works.
Facts.
I think what this past weekend has illuminated to me, although none of this stuff affected me because I was playing on PC, man. I don't know what you guys talking about, bro. I don't know what you guys was dealing with, because, you know, I don't pay for access to play my games.
It was down on PC too, though.
Who was down on PC? Who?
Xbox Live. It was down on PC too.
Oh, that's so unfortunate. Guess what? It didn't bother me none. None of it did.
I'm still playing my games.
Not a damn thing bothered me whatsoever, because I was good playing everything that I was playing on PC. But all that said, and evening, fellas, all that said, I think if you are going to, and you want to sell people on a future where you know, like, people feel comfortable going all digital, people feel comfortable with the way that you have formatted your platform, how people access to their games. And if you out here trying to push xCloud, which every single time I've used xCloud, it has been unfortunate. But like, if that is what you want to do, you need to make sure that when you have outages like this, that they are not as long as this one was, because this is going on. I mean, like, it wasn't like the entire time, but good grief, like so many people this past weekend.
So Slow-Mo, you bring up some interesting points that diverge the conversation, and I'm not going to flat out disagree with you. I have my own perspective as a consumer, but I understand other people have their perspectives and their expectations. So part of what you're bringing up now is the network outage, and this has been another topic that's been going around. And
I thought that's what y'all were talking about. You know, I just got here, so I mean, y'all could have been talking about Coke versus Pepsi, and I came in here talking about.
We were talking about Chiquita versus Dole earlier. I don't know if you caught that.
Yeah. No, it's all in the bucket. I think it's all valid, because again, we're hitting like the 19 different points of contention that came up out of this thing this weekend, and one of those is, you know, what is a reasonable expectation for network services? And again, I will readily admit, I have a perspective, right, having, you know, run some network communication centers and some global, you know, network offices for different organizations. having been asked the question, well, why aren't the radios working? And I'm like, well, because radios go through the airwaves and they're impacted by things like solar energy and tons of things that I can't control. So I can't tell you why you can't talk to right that station 30 miles away and over the horizon. So I've been around that, so I definitely have a shaded view that might be different from others. But from a network communication standpoint, and what should expectations be, right? If you had a 99.9% SLA for Xbox Live, the network would be allowed to be down for about 8 hours and 45 minutes per year. That's if people had a 99.9% SLA with Xbox Live, which they don't, nor do customers have a 99.9% SLA with PlayStation Network. When you go and look at both of those services, commitments to delivery, they're both best effort, right? And then even if you go down the path of like, well, I need to be paid for an outage, at current price levels, not after necessarily all the changes with PlayStation Plus and all that kind of stuff, but let's just say current price levels, it works out to be about 6 cents an hour, right? That your network time is valuated. So I would, people might want to take that into consideration and kind of have an understanding of just kind of how that service delivery might go and how it might be regarded. And if that trips people's threshold for the service not being reliable enough or not being available enough or the corporation not being sufficiently committed to meeting that delivery, then they should take that into account and spend their money accordingly. But I'm just trying to, put it on a sliding rule scale so people kind of understand where it sits.
I feel you. I definitely feel you. And I understand as a network engineer, I deal with the whole, my directors are like, yo, slow-mo. Why can't I not access these servers over here in this country? Oh, well, hey, look at that data center in New Delhi. Well, they I don't know what they did, but they moved our tunnels, like that our routes to a stupid route, and I'm on the phone with them trying to get them to figure out why would they be so stupid again, and like trying to get the stuff reversed back to the way it was. Oh, you don't care? You don't care? Okay, just get it done. Shut the fuck up and get it done. All right, cool. I got it. See, like that's like no one cares about the why, right? Like we will talk about the why. Like it's not as easy as you think it is. It's not like setting up this stuff, getting it working. Oh, yeah, you got firewall this. Oh, whoopsie, you firewall too much stuff. You don't have access to this. Let me go reverse that. All that stuff. No one gives a crap about what we have to go through because all they care about is I can't access this. I need to access this now. You giving me excuses why I can't access this does not change the fact I cannot access this right now. Make it work. And it's like, all right, well, you know what? I guess I gotta make it work. And I think when it comes to like everything you said was accurate, but like the people who dealt with the outage this past weekend don't know any of that stuff. And I don't think like if anybody at Xbox tried to explain it to them, it would turn out to be like a end result of, oh, okay. Well, I guess all right, that makes sense then. All right, well, you guys, keep plugging at it. Let me know when it's back up. People be like, motherfucker, I spent da. I don't give a damn if a meteor hit your damn data center. Build a new data center in 2 seconds and get my stuff back online, right?
Well, and that's I mean, again, just in trying to get information out there for people to consider, right? That's kind of where the end result of that will go, right? So if the takeaway, if the walkaway is that people aren't satisfied with the reliability of the service and people aren't satisfied with the uptime of the service and people have some lofty ideals of what the expectation is, then you have to bolster those things. And as well as I do, right, that the difference between 5 nines of service uptime and 6 nines of service uptime is an exponentially more expensive, right, endeavor. And so that if they have to do that, right, maybe there are some things that they need to look at. And this is why I'm kind of hoping, I'd really like to see like the inside baseball on this, but this is why I'm kind of hoping that we hear some amount of the forensics behind the outage, right? If the outage was localized, right, and that can be identified, then you can go in and you can do things like, hey, maybe I need to have cloud connectivity to a different colo within this geographic regional footprint that maybe doesn't even go to my own data center. Maybe I enlist Akamai as a backup in some of these third tier kind of cloud service providers that may not be as subject to a large regional outage that I might be, and kind of enable them as kind of a microservice within my MPLS footprint or whatever type of their architecture is from a network perspective.
And I would kind of feel like that. I would hope they would have been already been doing that, because I mean, even with my company's small operation, we have like switchovers to, if we lose access to a data center, we switch over to a different data center somewhere else. That tunnel gets back up in like 2-3 minutes, hopefully. And if it doesn't, then we're going in trying to figure out, like, all right, why didn't this automatically fail over to this, and then making sure it gets back up there. But I think this kind of goes into, because like every one of these companies have a different philosophy on how they deliver content to consumers, and I think that you have Xbox on one end of the spectrum with xCloud. Wow, we're really forward thinking. Hey, if everything goes over towards this, we already got like the entire game plan down pat. We have seeded this. We have a foundation in it already, and it's going to be, we're going to be on the forefront of everything. You got Sony kind of in the middle. They're hedging their bets. They got like referendums and wink wink handshake stuff with Microsoft in regards to helping them get their stuff pushed over to that. And then you got Nintendo all the way on the other side of the spectrum. Like, what's a cloud? What clouds? I see clouds in the sky, huh?
They don't need a cloud. They sell their games.
It's not even cloudy today. It's a sunny day. There's no clouds out here.
They don't need a cloud. They don't need a cloud.
And I think like this could kind of go into like a feather Nintendo's hat. Like, see, this is why you should be over here with us. And in regards to like, this would be kind of almost like how, like, if these companies were a bit more aggressive in how they marketed things, that where you would see your competition pounce on something. And this is why we made our Nintendo Switch, available for you to play offline. And you never have to worry about this stuff, because your games, you'll play them anywhere. It doesn't matter what you're on. You could be on a train in a tunnel for like 20 hours, and you'll still be able to play your Nintendo Switch. You don't have to worry about this crap.
Right. But, when you go to the basketball court with your Switch, you'll be good.
But even though with your Switch you can't even say hello to another person on your friends list, but still, it's funny to me, not weird, but it's funny to me how like, I said this earlier today in regards to like talking about different platforms and how they like the leadership of these companies have set up their business models to work, and like you got people on Twitter like, the CFO for Sony doesn't know what he's talking about. No, you could absolutely do XYZ, and it's like, you don't know anything about his business. You don't have the data that he has about his business. How dare you, right? But like, I think what it really just comes down to is that like I appreciate the fact that they're all so different, because if they were all the same, imagine like matter of fact, here's a great example of it. Remember that year, where it was that hacker organization shut down on Christmas.
Yeah, like, Xbox Live and PlayStation Network.
Yeah, at the same time, right?
Yep, the DDoS attack. Yep.
And there was Nintendo over on the side doing the happy dance, like, ha, we good. Ain't nobody messing with us because we got nothing for them to mess with. So it's like, it's always good to have like that kind of, I love that kind of balance to the video game industry, because they're all doing something different enough that as a gamer, if you don't have any allegiance to one or the other, you're always going to have something to play, regardless of what's going on. Xbox got an outage. All right, cool. All right, well, I'll be on PC.
Right.
It's always a balance to it.
Right. And one of the things I will definitely say is, this is a thing that's going to be challenging for Microsoft in terms of, we've talked a lot tonight about how the different corporations are following different strategies. And so one of the things that Microsoft is definitely going to face is that as they go down this path of offering a different strategy, the intertwining of their overall service architecture, their service delivery methodology, right? And the way their Xboxes are basically physical nodes that are extensions of their overall network. That's more complicated than it might be for some other gaming vendors, and that's going to be additional systems engineering that they're going to need to put in place, right, to cover some of those kind of cascading casualties. And so I think, I mean, again, it'll be interesting to see what the traceability is behind this. I don't know that I walk away from this believing, or that I saw what I saw this weekend believing, that, to be quite honest, even though we've talked a lot about, network topology and capacity, that it was really a network problem, because no other Microsoft services that we know of went down. And it seems like if it was a real network problem, that there would have been other services that would have been impacted. So
yeah, it could have very well been a more of a database database kind of issue. If you think about, because I heard there were people who were saying like, oh, I didn't have any issues, right? But then people who seem to be account sharing, I don't know what they call it exactly because I don't do it, but like if you have a account buddy or something like that, right, where you guys share accounts, what is the exact term for Xbox? What do they call that exactly? Does anyone know?
Just game sharing.
Game share. Okay, just game sharing, right?
Yeah.
The people who seem to be game sharing were the ones who seem to be impacted the most. So it seems like I know it very well could not have been a network outage issue whatsoever. Especially if you were able to sign in, like if you were able to sign in on your Xbox. I mean, that will lead you towards maybe some of what was actually happening. Again, I didn't deal with it because I didn't turn my Xbox Series S on at all last weekend. So I don't know exactly what people were dealing with. But depending on what the actual symptoms are, I may lend you, as you go through the troubleshooting process of what exactly was happening. But as long as they figure it out, it's be good to go.
Yeah, but it was like, okay, I can tell you in my situation, because I do game share with my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
And it was like Destiny in particular, like pretty much any game I had digitally.
Mm-hmm.
It was telling me whenever I clicked on the game, it would say, hey, you do not own this game. And I was like, yeah, I do. And plus I'm online, so it shouldn't matter.
You're the primary console.
No, I'm the secondary, because the primary is what my daughter's on, because I buy all the games on my account. And but in order for her to play them, my account has to be primary on her system.
Okay.
So whenever I tried to play a game, it was telling me you don't own this. And I was like, well, the only time it says you don't own a game is if you're not able to get online. But I am online. Like, I'm literally in a party with people on Xbox Live, but you couldn't get access to none of the games that you play. Like, if you had digital copies, it was basically like the server wouldn't authenticate your digital key because it was saying you didn't own it. So it kind of seems like, I don't know, I don't want to go into the deep end of the river, but
let me go there for you, Forte. So I'm going to get way outside of my lane.
Because I think I think some stuff going on that they're working on the back end.
Right. So when we talk about identity credentialing, right, and access management, and we talk about authorization and access, and we kind of separate some of those pieces of the pie from DRM. One of the things that I said this weekend is, like, in general, right, while you kind of maybe have some wonky things in certain segments of a network, in general, like, large swaths of network service behavior don't change if nobody's touched anything. Right. And one of the things I do, right, Slow-Mo, you talked about, people giving you the phone call. Like, one of the things I do is when I see something wonky going on a large network segment, I start calling people to see what they touched and what they changed, right? And
the funny thing is, before I do that, I check the logs. I check the logging and be like, oh, okay, someone definitely changed that. Then I start asking questions, and I get the whole, oh, I didn't do anything. Oh, so you weren't the one who logged in at 10:36 and came into the firewall and changed this. Oh, you know what? I did do that. Yeah, my bad.
So we have examples in recent history where, in a network operator error, a site reliability engineer error, fat fingering something, right, has taken down, right, all the the entire S3 bucket system went down on the entire Eastern availability zone for AWS. All Google services went down, right? Just because somebody had deployed something incorrectly or made an update change incorrectly. And so one of the things that's gone on recently is that because of the rollout of Xbox Cloud Gaming being accessible by people who would not have an attribute that would identify them as a Game Pass subscriber, and would not have an attribute that would show proof of, ownership or having paid for a game, because now you can access Fortnite via Xbox Cloud Gaming without being a Game Pass subscriber and without having to buy the game, right? That essentially, although I think, I'm not positive, but I'm going to assume that what's happening on Xbox is that they're doing attribute-based access control, not role-based access control. But even if I simplify it to role, that means that there's a different pool of users who can now access the system. Therefore, by definition, there must have been an update and a change to the identity credentialing and access management system, right, to identify those different users who have a different set of attributes than everybody else who was accessing the system before. That is the type of thing where implemented that could cause some of the types of problems that we saw over the weekend, and could cause some sporadic variances in people who were impacted and people who weren't. So I'm hoping that we, again, kind of get an understanding of what was going on, what's going on behind this change and some of the wonky behavior that we've seen.
Yeah.
And BRAP, you have a few super chats. Sorry.
Yeah, let me grab some of these super chats here. Steady Flow with the $10 super chat says the outages didn't just affect digital games, but physical games, even offline. That the Xbox has switched to home. Even got Paris from Twitter reporting on it. Even had Xbox Twitter reporting on it. And then Steady Flow with a $5 super chat says, funny thing, people bring up 2011 PS3 hack. Players, including me, could still play their single-player games offline, plus the free games PlayStation gave out. And then we have Tactical Gamer with the $10 super chat says, why so many outages of big tech? I've noticed issues with redundancy and resiliency in the sector since I've been working with CISA as an analyst on National Guard orders since January. Can you speak to that?
So BRAP, can I just jump in on that third one? I'll throw my 2 cents on it, and then Slow Mo, definitely jump in if you have something to add.
I anything I can say to it, I can't. So I
can't say right. And I will keep my discussion of this like incredibly high level. A Tactical Gamer, why so many outages with big tech? I won't, because of what went on this weekend, I won't speak to any notion of kind of a global trend in higher outages with big tech. What I feel like we saw this weekend was not necessarily a network outage, but was a service outage or service defect. Even though there were instances where network connectivity was absolutely there and had the same redundancy and resiliency that it would normally have. And if that is the root cause, what that speaks to is what I mentioned before, which is that as you start stratifying and creating additional levels of the hierarchy of all these different service levels within Xbox, you're going to have these, what I want to call them, you're going to have these, this interchange of like permissives versus privilege. I'll call them privileges, entitlements, and access. Right, you're going to have kind of these more and more complicated access schemes that have different gates that you have to pass and validate through. And if you create kind of a firing chain, that's like 9 different checks that have to be done for different service levels, right? Because now I got to validate as a valid Xbox Live user. Now I got to validate as a Game Pass subscriber. Again, I got to validate as a Game Pass subscriber in good standing with my account paid up to date. And I got to validate, right, whether or not I'm able to access Xbox Cloud Gaming, because part of that is what is the service footprint and what geographic area that I'm in. So it just creates, it overhauls the plumbing more and more. And at a certain point, when it gets super complicated, it's more and more complicated to make a good rule set and a good rules engine that's evaluated where there aren't any conflicts. And you don't have these weird wonky states where if you're in a certain state where, 5 things are positive and 4 things are negative, does that mean that, right, the transaction kind of completes? And I think that's just going to be an increasing problem with Xbox as they go down the service pathway.
Yeah. I'll speak in very general terms in addressing tactical. I'll say this, right? And this isn't into anything in regard to what may be happening right now, and the things that he mentioned. But working in the area that I work, right, there's a lot of government contracting, and contracts switch hands to different companies frequently, especially when certain certain requirements or benchmarks aren't hit by companies, or if just another company swoops in and says, "Hey, look, we'll do the same work for cheaper," and then that government agency switches to a different contract. I bring this up because sometimes, and usually what happens when they happen is that like the new company who takes on the contract extends offers to the people who are working on the contract because they didn't do anything wrong. They're doing their jobs and they're doing it well. They extend offers to them to then leave their current companies and join them on the new company. And hey, sometimes that prevents opportunities for people to hey, get a come up. Maybe you haven't had a raise in 3 or 4 years, and you're going to make sure that you get that payout right now, immediately. And if you don't, then maybe they have to replace those people with people who may not be quite familiar with everything that's going on. Now, I say all that so that like if you get someone coming into a situation and they aren't quite not necessarily they're not like I'm not saying they're not qualified, but they don't know everything that's going on. They may make mistakes as they're trying to get up to speed. And if the onboarding process isn't great, then you're going to get people who do make mistakes. Kind of some of the similar things that be in Logic was talking about earlier, where someone may fat finger something, or maybe someone maybe intentionally deleted something that they shouldn't have deleted, and then it takes a while to go backtrack through everything that was done to undo this honest mistake. I could use an example for myself that I fixed very, very quickly, and very few people noticed the mistake I made. I was showing a new employee how to set up VPN tunnels on a Cisco router, and so I was showing him the phase 1, the phase 2, and then also the access control list, which is the ACL firewall that allows data to go back and forth. And I had what I did normally do is like to copy everything over to a notepad on my desktop to make sure that if there any mistakes are made, then I can just copy and paste and throw them in there to make sure that like they are fixed quickly. Glad I did that because I deleted an entire ACL in there, a big long ACL that I couldn't off the top of my head remember every permit or deny command that was in there. Deleted the entire thing. I did it by accident. I just stood there and just stared at it for a second like, oh shit. The new guy looks at me and he's like, oh fuck. And then I start seeing people going, hey, did we lose access to XX, blah, 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 blah? I'm like, oh, shit. Copy and pasted that thing back in there, got it working very quickly. And it's like, as far as people concerned, oh, just a minor hiccup. No big deal. And like, that's like fixing a situation quickly. But imagine someone does that, they go on to do other things, they have no idea what they did. And it takes a while to backtrack through everything and find what the actual mistake was, you know?
And then they have to manually rebuild it, right? Which is very often the case, right? That there's not backups, that people didn't prevent, right, the possibility that might happen. And so whatever has to be reconstructed has to be done manually, or just has to be fat fingered and typed in, because the only thing is there's not a file that can be brought, copy and pasted in. It's exists somewhere in some format that you have to manually type it all back in.
Absolutely terrible operational procedure for a company that had not had backups for every time they update something. But sometimes that happens, and when that does happen, you're going to get situations where we got to put in this all manually. You son of a bitch! Thank you for fucking that up.
Right. I'll have to tell you one day about my disaster recovery tapes that are sitting inside someone's drawer in their office. So, but you bring up some great points, and again, I mean, I don't want to. I'm not lodging this comment at you, Slow-Mo, but just kind of in general, right? As always, right, particularly in technical fields and with technical issues, right? People are very quick to ascribe malice to situations that are sometimes just caused by, negligence or incompetence. Again, Slow-Mo, that is not what you did. Actually, you did an incredibly competent thing by having that thing readily available and in disposition so that you could copy and paste it back in. So, but lots of times bad things happen, unintentionally. They are not necessarily because, what I've seen on Twitter is that this is all part of some grand conspiracy theory that has been going on since the Don Matrick times, And I don't know that I would leap to that kind of flat earther kind of perspective.
Oh man, step 38 is in the plan to ruin Xbox.
Nuke them from orbit. It's the only way to be sure.
Yeah.
We shot down the satellite from orbit. We now have enacted the plan. They'll never get this. They'll never figure it out. Like, what the hell? Like, nah, it's not that big a deal, bro. Somebody fucked something up. That's all.
Yeah.
You know? But it's still, again, to draw it back to what I was saying earlier. Like, as far as the consumers, because I see a lot of people in the chat. Like, I don't know what the fuck y'all talking about. Like, I get it, but for a lot of people, we start talking about technical stuff, and they just go. It just like. Are they hearing this? Want excuses? Want. I don't care. Like they just don't care because as far as they're concerned, I just wanted to play my Xbox, and I couldn't play my Xbox, and I'm angry. And it's just like it doesn't matter.
I want to play my Xbox.
Yeah, it's just like it doesn't matter what you say. It doesn't matter like how you try to explain it to them. It's just like it's not acceptable. It never will be. Fix it.
Yeah. Hey, real quick, gentlemen. Real quick, gentlemen. I do need to wrap up the show here, and I wanted to before we do that. I just want to say real quick. Yeah,
still got 10 minutes.
No, I got it, dude. I'm tired, man. I'm beat.
Well, if you did this on StreamYard,
I have hardly heard Eric speak on his last episode.
Hey, you came late. You showed up late.
I want him to monologue something. He got a monologue.
So wait, before we wrap up. That's why. That's why I wanted to. That's why I'm saying we need to wrap up. One, I'm tired, and probably have COVID.
You want this show to go forever so you can keep.
No, sir, I'm not.
Wait, hold on. I thought you tested negative. You said you tested negative.
Yeah, I did, but I mean, I'm just tired, so I'm probably at the point where
your body's probably fighting. You've got boosters, and you've been vaccinated and all that stuff. Your body's probably kind of fighting it off at the same time.
But our youngest has got like a fever and stuff, and.
Yeah, man, that sucks.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm tired. Like I'm ready to just pass out. So yeah,
you got that scurvy again, man.
Yeah, right. No, before we wrap up, I did want to give E the platform again. I just want to say something real quick. We get to talk about this, but more PlayStation 5 exclusives are going to PC. PC is the best platform for gaming. There's no debate on that. But yeah, I want to give the floor to E, man, because this is his last show. We're going to miss him. He's been a great contributor to the show. Joined in 2015. But E, the floor is yours, sir.
I'll jump on the spot real quick. No, I don't have a whole lot to say. I'll just say, it's crazy how fast a year can fly, and it's crazy how fast 8 years can fly. From the time we came on the show, whatever, and it's been an interesting ride, just watching the show grow. The different panel members that we've had, over the years, different guests that we've had. But now I just want to give a shout out, Enrique. Yeah, thank you for that invite. I'll never forget that. When you had me come on, and it kind of just came on as a guest, and then you asked me to be a regular member. And I definitely appreciated that. And just shout out to Forte and Slow Mo. They came into the show. Oh, I'm jumping over B. When B came on, that was to me almost like being a little bit starstruck. Beat Money from Tick podcast. That was a lot of people who are new to the community probably don't remember just how big the Tick podcast crew was. And the things that they were doing and the access that they had, and rest in peace, Cal. For the things that he started with that. But then when B came over, that was awesome. But also when Slow Mo and Forte came in, just bringing a new energy to the show, and quickly became my bros and two of my favorite people in the community. And so I definitely appreciate you guys and having me on DPS and everything. But it's I'm stepping down, but it's not goodbye. Like I said, I'll definitely be jumping in on guest spots. Like Forte and Slow Mo, I'll definitely jump on DPS with you guys. And I'll definitely still be around the community. But it's just, one of those things, just trying to focus on some other things. And yeah, but definitely going to miss being on week to week. The chat is awesome. Yeah, we definitely got a good audience, man. And I appreciate each and every one of you for coming in week to week, keeping things rowdy, keeping things cool. Some of you get out of line, but, we know gamers are passionate, but we appreciate you anyway. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got to say, man. Thank you.
Man.
Yeah, no doubt. And by the way, Slow-Mo was there. He witnesses Forte is officially resigned from BRAP, and Agent Deli will be taking over his spot. So,
apparently on Luca's channel, the entire chat rejoiced. It was kind of odd.
They actually really did.
It was like a resounding hell yeah, just like almost kind of like if you were at an arena and there's the wave happening, like everyone joined in, and it was just like Forte's leaving. Yeah. Oh no. Oh, Deli is replacing him. Never mind. Yeah. Great. I love it. It was just like, well, damn.
And and literally anybody, and I took notes. Everybody in there that's a 10%er, you just lost 2 points. You ain't a 10%er no more.
I saw you, Blade X.
Yep.
Yeah,
you are no longer.
You got all you guys.
Man, Forte, how fast they sell out, bro.
Yeah, I know, man. You know, when I do the monologue tomorrow at the beginning of the show, I'm just gonna shout out all the people that no longer. They lost a number on their percentage. They 11%ers now. Y'all can't be in the top 10.
Yeah. Well, look,
a lot of them. A lot of people.
It really was.
And before we wrap up, I do want to get another super chat. Tactical Gamer, the 2000 super chat says, not having backups is a regular thing that we see. So thank you for that super chat. Anyone else on the panel want to say anything before we wrap up?
What? I mean, I missed every topic except for the last one.
No, I mean, Eric, is kind of,
the E.
Yeah, okay.
Man. Yeah.
Oh, well, the topic of the evening is E, and I think we're gonna miss that. I think Eric has had this great talent of wheeling us all back in, of like being able to diffuse like heavy tensions and arguments and going back and forth, and then he just kind of interjects and goes, none of y'all shit y'all talk about right now is relevant to the conversation. Like here's the problem, and here's and it's just like I guess you're right. Like I guess it's that quality that we probably are going to miss the most, and it's going to be difficult for someone to slap some sense back into Enrique when he's out here doing Enrique-isms.
I don't even know what that. What is an Enrican is? What is that? I don't even know what that is.
You know what it is.
I have no idea what that is.
Everybody on this damn panel plus the chat know what it is, Enrique.
I don't know what that is, man. I have no idea. Literally,
we'll explain it to you off the air. But like when it happens and we all recognize it's happening, it's always been Eric that's been like, matter of fact, you had an Enrique-ism last week, and Eric Eric helped you, like realize it. Then we spent like a good 10 minutes just having fun with it. But like it's going to be that's missing. And of course, like he said, like he's not going away forever, and he'll do guest spots and stuff. But that's I guess the beauty in how life is that everything has a season. And not everything's supposed to last forever. And when you try to make things last forever, things get ruined, right? Mm-hmm. So when people need to move on and do other things, but because life is life, like you can't like stand in the way of it in case especially if you don't want to see things change. But you just gotta accept it for what it was and appreciate everything that came out of it for the time that it was too. So, yeah.
Appreciate those words, man.
Yeah, no problem, bro.
Yeah,
all right, Forte, you don't get a say because you're not part of the show anymore. So on that note,
wow, it's already falling apart, man.
You know what, E?
See, you got to come back, man.
You know what, E? Come to DPS tomorrow for 5 minutes, and I'll give you your flowers there since you don't want your flowers here.
No,
go ahead, Forte. I'm just joking, man.
I know you were just playing. No, but for real, I think it's been almost. How long we been here? 3 years now? Two,
man.
Yeah, it's been about 3 years.
You guys have been, Forte and Slim have been here 3 years now.
Yeah, 3 years, man. Time flies, and I definitely understand the decision that you're making, because like Slomo just said, everything doesn't last forever, and you've been doing this for even longer than we were doing it. So just watching you growing underneath, everything that you were saying and stuff definitely helped me become a better person that does all this type of stuff that we do on here. Listening to your words of wisdom, you will always be the person, the reason of doubt when it comes to this. Nothing will ever seep through. When E was here, everybody would always understand, like, if E's here, we ain't gonna have no tomfoolery, except for that episode where he was on there with on Crossfire. That was all left. But
oh man, yeah, there was no control in that.
There was no control.
That was a forest fire.
Even the power of E couldn't control that show.
At that point, you just get the marshmallows out and just melt them by the fire. That's
Which one am I going to roast today? But no, man, I really appreciate everything you done for me, for DPS, for Slow-Mo, for just this show in general, for the chat. You always had a very, very good understanding of everything that's going on inside of the gaming media and when it's going inside the community. And I'm just going to miss you, the person, man. One of the few people that's been on DPS multiple times. And that's mostly because you just gel really, really well with us. And that's a testament to the team that Enrique put together over here. So definitely going to miss you, and definitely can't wait to see the next thing that you're going to do. Make sure you take a picture from the top of Mount Everest for me, because I know that's where you're going.
Oh, all right, no doubt.
Mount Everest. Forte is like a used car salesman.
Life goes right there. Hey, man.
Yeah, man. That's a beautiful analogy, man.
Listen, if you leave in BRAP, you must be going to climb Everest. Because being here with us is at the top of the world. We at the top of the world, bro.
Oh, my goodness.
I flight, Craig.
Yeah. No, man, but we're gonna really, really miss you, man. I'm happy for the decisions that you made, and definitely, man, just everybody know that he was the glue. He was the glue around here, and it's definitely not going to be the same. I guess I gotta step my game up to get on BRAP more than I used to. More now. No. You don't.
I'll just say this: when there's a topic going on in the community that you guys are going to address, hit me up. You know those times Enrique's about to go off the rail.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say, what would E do?
We'll just call E in, and as soon as he arrives in the chat, like, Enrique, no, I've been messing around. I've been acting up.
I've been messing around.
E about to set me straight.
Wow.
Hey, Brad, before you wrap up, I do want to make one request of Forte and Slow-Mo. Since I'll throw it out there. You guys can decide what to do with it. Since we didn't get to talk Sony financials tonight, it would be great if on DPS tomorrow night you guys would address the projected 12% fall off in operating income for next fiscal year. So,
guess what?
Will freaking do. That was already in the game plan.
Awesome.
It gives
already going to be a topic.
Yep.
It's funny how people miss that. Conveniently miss that point about the anyhow.
Mm-hmm. And by the way, tomorrow we will be having the amazing and legendary Era Cuts for the win.
Era
joining
Cuts,
us
Mama
for
Cuts.
the first time. Mama Cuts will be there. She's the first time on DPS. She's an awesome content creator and streamer.
Yeah.
Really, really entertaining. Really fun to be around. Has a great community.
Yeah, good people.
Shout out to her and the Troubleshooters. They're awesome people. And she'll be joining us tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Forte's channel. And we're going to have a great time tomorrow. So come check us out.
Mm-hmm.
No doubt. Well, E, man, again, I said this earlier, man. Gonna miss you, man. Happy. I'm happy to have had you, as part of the, the panel, man. Like I said, it does seem like yesterday when we had you on as a guest, and then invited you on as a full panel member, and we've had some really some cool experiences together, man. Like just having some industry guests on, and you're gonna be missed, man. And like I said, man, open door policy, E, man. Anytime you want to hop on, man, you don't even need to ask. Just join us. You want to come in here, kick Forte in the nuts. Come in here and do that, man.
Do that.
Yeah.
No. That's fine. You can do that.
Slow-Mo said that's fine.
Do that every day.
Yeah. So, but nah, E, we're gonna miss you, man. And
Yeah, I appreciate you guys.
you know,
man,
yeah,
for real.
it's no, you have been you become a great friend of mine, man, and you know, I've got to know you over the last couple of years, and you know, just yeah, we're gonna miss having you on. So thank you
Yeah,
again,
man, you
man.
saw me
Thank
become
you.
a dad.
What's that?
I said you were there. You saw me become a dad on the show. That's how long it's been.
Yeah, no, right? Yeah. Well, I mean,
How
you saw
about
me
that?
have like 4 kids, man.
when you started off with a couple already, and then you added on to the basketball scene.
Yeah, exactly. I think I had 2 when we started. Now I have 2 more. So, but no,
Wow.
you knew me in my 30s, man. I mean, bro. It's
Man. Same here.
It's been crazy, man. Like, you know, yeah, it's been wild, man.
A long time because Enrique's 50.
No, I'm
Oh,
not
yeah,
50, but
somehow he got older than me on the show.
I know, right? Somehow I became older than E. But nah, E, thank you, man. Again, man, thank you for
No doubt, man. Love you
for
guys,
the
man.
last 7
Appreciate
years,
you.
man. Nah, I love you too, man. Mad love. So, all right, we're gonna get going. Game Logic, man. Thank you again, sir. Always a pleasure having you on BRAP, man.
Logic.
Yeah. So I don't know if
We
you
gotta
want to
play
be
some more
found, Game
Halo,
Logic.
man.
Huh?
Oh, I'm about.
I said we gotta play some more Halo.
Yeah, I'm about to jump on as soon as we wrap this up.
Uh-oh. There you go. Yeah. I wish I could join you, man, but I'm dead tired, man.
Around here.
Yeah. So.
I might join you. It depends on how this Red Bull hits.
Oh boy. All right.
Hey, how long ago did you start drinking it?
All right.
Just now.
All right, we are big shout to everyone in the live chat again. I don't know who I dropped a PlayStation digital network, whatever digital card currency thingy. I don't know if anyone got it. I'm assuming someone did, and I wasn't paying attention to the chat to see if anyone got it. But if anyone did get the PlayStation digital gift card, congratulations on that.
Someone did.
Someone did.
Thank
okay.
you.
Who got it?
Thank you.
You got it, Slumbo?
I'm joking. I didn't.
Oh, I was
say
gonna say.
it wasn't me.
I think Slomo did get it. I think
I
he
didn't.
You were not.
do- no,
You were not
I
eligible.
did get
I
it.
did not do it. I'm
Somebody in the chat tell us who
it
got
wasn't
it.
me. It wasn't me.
Slomo got it.
It was.
Yeah,
I'm
but,
Shaggy over here. It wasn't
yeah.
me. I'm telling you.
Hey, make sure to check out DPS
Call me in the
podcast tomorrow.
shower.
Tomorrow night, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure to check out those guys. And everyone, hit that like button if you're new. Subscribe. Hit the bell notification alert when we go live. And everyone have a great rest of the week. Be safe out there. COVID is still going around.
You caught me on camera. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know from experience. It's still going
you've been caught on
around.
camera?
And I'm not going on camera. What?
You've been caught on camera?
I don't know what that means, man.
All right. Okay. All right.
Caught on camera. What does that mean?
It's the Shag. You know what? In the show.
Where in the world is?
All right. We're going to end the show. We're out.
In the shows.
Catch you guys next week. Peace.
Let peace. Carmen San Diego.